Today I'm going to do something a little different, so my paper mini friend here isn't really needed.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Language!
What? No, ah!
But seriously, I am slightly nervous about showing my face, so please go easy on me. Right. Daggerheart is a game that wears its design philosophy on its sleeve. From the very beginning, it tells you that the rules are there to support the story, not the other way round. And because Daggerheart leans so hard into this narrative freedom, it also naturally invites something else: house rules. Now, since the playtest, I've been keeping a close eye on Reddit and the excellent Facebook Daggerheart group, and of course the comments right here on my channel, and keeping an ear out for how the players are tweaking the system. Not because it's broken, but because different players want different things. So in this video, I'm going to talk you through some real house rules that people are actually using. Rules pulled straight from community experiences and actually playing the game. No one's really trying to fix Daggerheart, merely to customize it. So whether you're playing Daggerheart right now, or you're just curious as to how flexible the game system truly is, this should give you a solid look at how the community is shaping the game beyond the core rules. Let's dive in. Custom Rule 1. Less hope for tag team roles. It seems to be a common thing that GMs are noticing players are not utilising tag team roles as much as they could. The main reason being the 3 hope that it costs to initiate them, in rules as written. I get this. It's a bit of a gamble. Sure, you're more likely to actually hit your target and deal more damage, of course, but it's not a guarantee. A player might feel it's a better use of their resources to spend one on their hope feature, one on an experience, maybe one on something else, and together these amount to more than the sum of their parts. So how do we house rule this? Well, I've already seen a lot of tables are lowering it to 2 hope to spend, which already seems very enticing to the player. But the tweak I've seen the most is 3 hope spend, but it's split between the 2 players, with one spending 2 hope, the other spends 1, and whoever spends 2 hope, of course, is the leader, the initiator of the attack. I like this because it seems like you're both giving something towards the attack, and it really leans into the narrative too. I'm gonna lay down a volley of fire at that adversary. Nice, that'll let me sneak in behind with my dagger. Custom Rule 2. No more avoid death. There are 3 death moves in Daggerheart. There is Risk It All, there is Avoid Death, and there's Blaze of Glory. But the one that seems really divisive is the Avoid Death. There is a big part of the player base that wants their games to feel gritty and that death could come at any moment. The thought of a player losing an epic showdown with a screaming harbinger of doom, only to simply say, "I'll avoid death, please," really takes the wind out of the heroic sails. So what do these death move nihilists do to fix this? Well, simply taking Avoid Death off the menu has been thrown out there. I've got to admit, I have thought of doing this for my own games, but only for those epic end-of-tier boss battles where the stakes are at their highest. After all, these are the moments where if your character is going to go out, they want to go out like the heroes of old.
Tell Loganberry, I'm sorry, but this is bigger than me. The whole village will die if I don't act now. Geronimo!
Another option I've seen, and that I quite like, is making scars mandatory when choosing the Avoid Death move. Rules as written, you roll your fear die, and if that value is equal to or less than your level, then you take a scar, which means you permanently cross out a hope slot and then work with your GM to decide how this narratively affects the character moving forward. But the argument here is to take away the roll entirely. Now you know the consequences when choosing this death move. And you'll also only be able to do it 6 times before your hope runs out and you end up making another death move, Blaze of Glory or Risk It All. Now, speaking of scars, Custom Rule 3. Scars come with an ability decrease. Darrington Press's other TTRPG, Candela Obscura, does something similar to this. Your character can gain up to 3 marks in body, brain, and bleed, if I remember correctly. If you take a 4th mark, then your character is incapacitated and takes a scar. And a scar here represents a permanent change to your character, both mechanically and emotionally. It's easy to see how Daggerheart players are looking to adopt a similar system. For example, Mrs. Shanks was injured in a fight with a cave troll. After her death move, she was forced to mark a scar. She describes how the troll broke her leg and now she's gained a limp. Because she now hobbles when she walks, she transfers a point from her agility trait into her instinct trait instead. This decrease in agility has made her less agile, but she's more aware of her surroundings as she goes about her business, so these things are less likely to happen again. Custom Rule 4. Super Crits. Firstly, I love the phrase super crits. The idea here is that if you roll 2 12s on your duality dice, then you should get an extra bonus on top of the already generous bonus that Daggerheart bestows critical hits. I've seen some players argue that you should clear all stress and fill all your hope slots, but this does seem a little extreme to me. So let's look at the odds of this actually happening. The odds of rolling 2 12s are 144 to 1. I estimate that the average 3-hour Daggerheart session with 4 players has around 90 to 150 unique duality dice rolls. This takes into account 3 to 5 combat encounters and, some extra roleplay and exploration thrown in too. So a super crit could come up once per session, which for me is too often to allow such extravagant rewards. I think I'd actually be inclined to grant a higher damage boost than giving a player extra hope or clear more stress. Because if you're capping damage at the severe threshold anyway, then what you're doing is just giving the player additional bragging rights. Remember when we took on the demon and I scored 78 damage? Yes, we remember. Speaking of damage caps, Custom Rule 5. Even more massive damage. There's an optional rule in a Daggerheart rules called massive damage. The table may implement a massive threshold that's double your severe threshold. If you ever take massive damage, you mark an additional hit point. Now, for some tables, this clearly isn't enough. I've seen on many occasions players say that a blow that big should kill the enemy outright. Or the player, of course. The purpose here is to bring back that sense of jeopardy that many players feel is missing through Daggerheart's damage thresholds and hit point system. Now, rules as written, if a player has 5 hit points left and they get attacked by an adversary, they know that they'll still be on their feet when it's over. Another variant I've seen is where each time you go over that severe threshold, it's an additional hit point. I.e., if an adversary has a severe threshold of 25, and the player deals 75 damage, then they would take 5 hit points. 3 for hitting the severe threshold, and then 2 for each 25 past that. With either method, it's worth saying that dealing massive damage, which is double the severe threshold, is quite rare. And there is a big argument that this kind of damage output should be rewarded. But please, if you decide to implement this at your table, make sure your players are aware of this, because obviously it applies to them as well as adversaries. How are you having your damage, lads? Massive! Custom Rule 6. Gold Simplicity. Another common one. Many people do not favour the handful, bag and chest measurements of gold. It's a little abstract. The rulebook does have an optional variant where gold is a little bit more granular, and it adds individual coins into the mix, where 10 coins equals 1 handful. Yeah, this is still a little clumsy dealing with, handfuls, bags and chests. How much gold have you got? I got 7 bags, 9 handfuls, and 6 coins. It's much simpler to flatly state how much gold you've got. How much gold have you got? 796. It might take a little bit off the immersion, but a lot of tables are doing this, and it's hardly a game changer. Custom Rule 7. Extra downtime activities. Time for a rest, guys. What are you going to do? I'll probably tend to my wounds. I'm going to repair armour. I'm a bit stressed. I'll chill out a bit. I'll prepare for tomorrow. Well, if you're all busy, I'll just work on my project. These are the downtime activities listed in the core rulebook, but of course, the community has been dreaming up new ones, so here's a collection. There is Set Watch, where one noble volunteer offers to keep watch over the campfire that night, potentially stopping an ambush by the adversaries. Forage. This is a good one if your players like to embrace the survival immersion in a campaign. Research, for when a player wants to learn about a specific, place, enemy, noble, that kind of thing. Or cartography. This is where the player wants to draw a map of somewhere that they've seen or even just read about. This could be useful for the GM who gets an opportunity to weave a new location into their campaign. Custom Rule 8. Structured Initiative. Now, most people who play Daggerheart, especially those who, like me, have spent many years playing D&D, we feel liberated by the lack of initiative and the dynamic turn order that Daggerheart uses. Yet there is another group, and this does include a few people at my own table, who miss the structured order that initiative provides. And it's usually for one of two reasons. Number one, someone hogs the spotlight, or number two, someone is too shy to take the spotlight for themselves. Ha! That got the blighter. Someone else have a go at him.
I'll get him. Charge!
So, how do you keep it fun for both of those groups? You could use the optional spotlight tracker, as mentioned in the rulebook, but other players have come up with their own systems, like making sure that each player gets to have a turn before you can make another one. And the easiest way that I've seen of doing this is to have a token in front of you with a different marker or colour on each side, and then when you've had your go, you just flip it over, and you can't take your go again until you see everyone's token matches yours. And as for those shy players who struggle to push themselves forward to take the spotlight, I've seen tables use a system where you have to nominate the next player at the end of your turn. This helps shy players and often evens out turns over time. Custom Rule 9. Group Hope. This is quite a simple one. When you roll with hope on your duality die or a critical hit, instead of adding the hope to your own total, you use a community pool. And players can take from this pool whenever they wish to power their own abilities, experiences, etc. The argument here is that it encourages greater teamwork and discussion over what might be the optimum use of that hope. Now, personally, I'd argue that players often need to be a little bit selfish, otherwise they might never get to use some of their abilities because there's always a greater good thing that might benefit the whole party. But hey, you do you. Custom Rule 10. Overkill. In TTRPG circles, the overkill rule is when a player deals much more damage than is actually necessary to kill their adversary. And what happens to the excess damage? Does it carry over to something else? This could be purely narrative. Maybe that goblin gets launched into a wall and splits purely in half. But it could mean that that excess damage is carried over to an additional adversary within range. You know, think of a warrior cleaving through with a great axe. It kills one opponent and carries on to slug the next one behind it. It's a bit like how minions work. I quite like this. It makes sense in a narrative-first game to really reward those highly powerful attacks with something a little extra. So that's 10 house rules, and I think we'll leave it there. I love the fact that Darrington Press actively encourages players to use homebrew in their game, allowing the community to shape it into what they want it to be. Now, do you have your own homebrew rules? And if you do, please post them in the comments below so that everyone who watches this channel can all be inspired together, including me. Now, next time, I'm hopefully going to be showcasing some more combat, but on a scale of epicness that I've never attempted before. So please subscribe if that sounds up your street. And please like this video so that others can find it. And until next time, please remember this. Rules are maps. You still have to walk your own path.